But let me say something about this project itself. We are starting a project that we call Navigating Uganda's Political Future, Tectonic Shifts, Trends, Contestations in the 2026 elections and beyond. We are at the very initial stages of actually starting this work. But what we want to produce at the end of it is we want to produce a book that looks at different dimensions and facets around elections up to 2026. Now, we call this book, we haven't yet got the title of the book, but the project, we are calling it Navigating Uganda's Political Future. And we do that not because of anything, but because we know that as Uganda prepares for 2026, I think there is quite a lot of political anticipation of different types, a lot of uncertainty, a lot of engagement, and also over the years, the elections that we have gone through have shown us that everybody arrives to this thing called elections in different ways. It is understood differently, people engage with it differently, and many other things. When we did the last book, which is called Controlling Consent, Uganda's 2016 elections, there we looked also at different dimensions of elections, and we found that there were very many interesting insights. So what we want really to do in this next book or anthology, an anthology is a collection of chapters, is really we want to interrogate some of the dynamic and often contentious nature of elections in Uganda, because as you know, elections in Uganda are very dynamic but also very contentious. And very interesting because at some point people feel like nothing changes, and yet at the same time people know that lots of things change. So if your reality is in a local government, I think the number of leaders that you see being thrown in and out is high. If your eyes are at the central government, you can think that nothing ever changes in this country when it comes to elections. So that tells you that there is a certain level of dynamism that we sort of have to think about. But 2026 also promises to be particularly an interesting election because of the diversity of things that we know are here. It's not a secret that Uganda has had one of the longest serving presidents in a continent. Now that's not a small feat, but also we have lots of young people who have actually grown up in this time that are also vying to become leaders in this country. That in itself is interesting. People who came as liberation war struggleists, people who came from the ghetto and are trying to get into State House, people, both those places are very complicated. The bush and the ghetto, I think is not a place you want to spend your life. You want to quickly move out of both of those. But we know that those are been places that have shaped our political culture in many ways, like it or not. Of course, the other thing is we are sitting on a 75% population of young people. who many of them have never seen any other elections apart from the ones that are organized in the current dispensation. And now we are seeing even, the emergence of the father-son kind of competition or contestation. And all those things mean that there is quite a bit that we need to understand. The population itself in Uganda, the refugee influx, and what that is, the heightened conflicts in different places. Sudan is just our neighbor that has a lot of problems right now. South Sudan is still an area that we need to watch. I think they have even postponed their elections. The DRC. So that's a geopolitical element. There are other issues like the commercialization of life in this country, including things like land and land acquisitions and how those look like for all of us. We have issues around unemployment, the challenges and the rapid urbanization. So I can go on and on, but and of course we as people who want to do a book, we have to really be able to sit back and say, how can we scope this in such a way that it is meaningful? In this country we have some very deeply interesting dynamics. We have, when you look at it from the face value, we sort of, if you take the top 10 positions in the country, the per capita of men versus women is very interesting. We have a vice president, we have a speaker, we have a prime minister, we have, you can count in terms of that. And yet when you look at the contestations, the gender-related contestations, it is clearly, one can argue that we are still deeply rooted in a very patriarchal system. So you wonder how a patriarchal system survives with a presence of very many women. But that means that then we have to interrogate the intersectionality of that, but also what does that mean in terms of how we navigate our electoral processes. So what we are trying to really get to is to say that we would like to have a multidisciplinary team of researchers who will look at these different aspects and start thinking through them, and eventually we write chapters out of this.